What's up, you guys? It's KeAmber Vaughn, aka CoachKe, coming back to you with another video. If you are new to my channel, welcome, and if you are not new, welcome back. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and also tap the bell so that you are notified of every new video that I post. So as you guys can tell by the title of this video, I'm going to be starting, I guess you could say, a new series. I'm not sure how many of these videos I'm going to come out with over time, but this is something that I did want to do where I kind of give you guys some of the finance tips and tricks and reasons for doing some of the things that I do because of what I've learned from other multimillionaires that either are in my current immediate circle or used to be in my immediate circle. And the reason why I want to do this is because from what I see online, especially on YouTube, a lot of people kind of regurgitate the same information that they hear from Dave Ramsey because he is one of the most popular multimillionaires in the finance industry. You see some people that kind of talk about some of the principles that Warren Buffett put out, Grant Cardone, but the majority of people talk about what Dave Ramsey talks about. And there's nothing wrong with any of his finance principles, his tips and tricks, because guess what? I use some of them, but I do know that everything is not for everybody. And I've seen in my comment section quite a bit, especially since I put out the Dave Ramsey video and the 4 reasons why I don't follow what he says to do, which again, I do follow some of the things, but not everything. I see that a lot of people are kind of coming out the woodworks like, hey, listen, you know, I really enjoy your videos and I like the fact that you're not as radical or not as strict, or, you know, hey, Dave Ramsey isn't for me either. Do you have some other information that you can give us? And so I wanted to start this because of that. Now, I do have at least 4 or 5 videos that I know I'm going to start off with this series, and I'll probably be putting these videos out on the recurring Mondays, not Mondays, Wednesdays probably. I'm not sure. They'll probably be a little bit spaced out. Not really sure. But today's video, I really want to talk about why I pretty much keep about 2 to 3 times my monthly expenses in my checking account. So the going thing around really is the fact that people will keep kind of like a small buffer, like $1,000. Some people go up to $1,500 in their checking account as they're paying off debt. And then you have some people who will literally drain their accounts down to zero pretty much the day before or the morning of their next payday. And they do this based on the zero-based budget. So there's like 2 different forms of zero-based budgets. Some people just say, hey, look, I want my money to go to these particular places, and, you know, my income and my expenses end up equaling 0, but my checking account never goes down to 0. Then you have some people who go the extreme place of, you know, hey, I'm draining everything to 0, so whatever I have left in my account before my next payday, that's the amount that I'm putting towards debt. Or whatever I have left in my checking account before my first paycheck of the next month, I'm going to drain it down to 0 and I kind of start over. I don't do that. So the reason why is because when I started learning about money and finance a couple of years ago, and when I say learning about it, I've took personal finance, you know, classes, personal finance 101, all these different classes, but I was never really taught, and you guys are probably the same way because I feel like our educational system completely fails us, but I was never really taught, like, how much should you keep in your checking? How much should you have in savings? I was never really taught this information. So when I started learning about emergency funds and the importance of having a mini emergency fund, a true emergency fund, an investment fund, all of these different things, and these kind of coincide with the 4 financial goals that you should have in order for you to attain financial freedom or achieve financial success. I did a video on this a long time ago. It's pretty old, but it's the same information that I still stick to this day. So if you missed that video, I'll link that up in the eye in the sky. But as I started to learn that, my biggest question was, okay, well, you're telling me how much I need in my savings. How much should I keep in my checking? And at the time, I basically learned from this individual that you want to keep 2 to 3 times your monthly expenses in your checking account at all times. And the reason being is because when you have a shortage of money, first of all, it leads to stress. You know, you're stressed out about transactions that you might need to make. Hey, I need to go to the grocery store, but I only have $500 in my account. You know, different things like this. It causes a situation where you start to make bad financial decisions because of the stress that you're in. When you think about any time in your life where you've been stressed out, whether it's financially, whatever, you start to kind of make some bad decisions or start to develop bad habits because of how clouded your mind is based on how really stress affects your body, how it affects your brain, etc., etc. So he basically told me keep the 2 to 3 times in that account, not just to prevent financial stress, but also so that when things arise, you don't always have to reach into your emergency fund. So since I've probably been in my early 20s, I've always tried to keep at least $2,000 to $3,000 in my checking account at all times. Now, there were some periods of times where, you know, I was going through a lot, didn't really want to build my business. I wasn't working at the time either. And so, you know, my checking account might be a little bit shorter than the couple of $1,000s, but I've never really had an issue where I've lived like paycheck to paycheck, or I stressed about money, or I struggle with money, or anything like that, because I had already kind of had in my mind that I needed to keep this specific amount in my checking at all times for me not to reach that level. But the other thing is, you know, let's say that you have some kind of car repair. Let's say you haven't started sinking funds or anything like that, and your car repair is $500. Well, let's say that your monthly expenses is let's say $2,000 a month. So we're keeping $4,000 to $6,000 a month in our checking at all times. Well, that $500 is really not going to bother you very much. Now, I can say that if you are someone who has somewhat of a spending problem, I probably wouldn't keep all of that in one account. If you have issues with spending, like, oh, I see I have $3,000, so I'm just going to swipe away, you're somebody who probably needs 2 separate checking accounts. So you probably need a checking account where this is the money where you put, you know, for your bills. So all of your bills come out of this account, and then all of your everyday spending comes out of a second account that you have a debit card attached to. And so with that account is probably where you want to have maybe $1,000 buffer or something like that. I do believe that buffers are very important. As I've stated in a previous video in the past, I've seen people who I watch on YouTube in the budgeting community who were originally doing the whole, hey, I drain my account to zero at the end of the month and then I start over. And then they have a month where their income is a little bit lower. Maybe some things kind of come up on the expense side, and now their account has either gone negative or they've had to pull a substantial amount of money from a small emergency fund that they have, and it kind of screws them up. And so if they were following this rule of having that buffer or having a particular amount in their checking account at all times, they wouldn't run into those same financial issues, those same financial stresses that they had in the past. And so this was a really big thing for me. As I've been in this debt freedom journey for the last 18 months, I didn't really stick to the whole 2 to 3 times the amount. I think the lowest my account ever got was maybe like 1.5 times. But that was still pretty much enough for me because, again, I'm not a big spender, so it wasn't really a big deal. But over the last like 3 or 4 months or so, my account has gotten back to the point where I keep about 2 to 3 times that amount in that account. Now, as my debt is being paid off, which it will be completely paid off probably by the end of next week, I will pretty much get to a point where probably at the end of the month, if I have anything in excess of 3 times my monthly bills in my checking account, I will drain it down and just put it into a savings account. And so for me, I haven't calculated exactly yet, but I believe that my monthly bills after my car note is gone next week should be a little less than $1,300 or right around $1,300, but I'm going to round that up to $1,500. So basically at the end of every month, if I have anything over $4,500, I'm just going to throw it into one of my savings accounts, maybe my investment sinking funds, something like that. But I will not keep anything in excess of that in my checking account because I don't really have an issue where I have to worry about being too far under anymore, especially now that I'm not so hell-bent and so focused on paying off debt, since that will be gone. So if you are someone who's having kind of some troubles with making sure that you have enough in your account to pay bills, you know, if you're someone who has issues with making sure that you have money in your account before you're swiping for transactions, whether it's groceries, you're going on a little shopping spree, whatever, maybe this is a principle that you need to adopt in your own life, making sure you have that buffer of 2 to 3 times your monthly bills in your checking account so you can reduce some of the stresses that you have financially. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, but other than that, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.